Hello, hi, can you all hear me? Just say yes. Hi Praneeth, how are you? Hi everyone. Hi to everyone who's joined in. So today we are at the grand finale of Tete, and I'm extremely excited to have Pooja Dhingra with us today to talk to us about her baking journey, her experiences, and lots more. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much for having me and thank you for doing this on Zoom. I know you've been doing everything on Instagram Live, but I just prefer this. I think it's more intimate.
Yeah.
Why is everybody's camera turned off? We can't see anyone.
Anyone, yeah.
Guys, I would love to see you. Hi. Hi, Pranee.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Akshita. Okay, now I can see faces. Amazing.
Faces. So thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I never thought you'd say yes to me when I messaged you, but I was like, yeah, when you said yes to me. So yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So,
Amira's looking bad. Where's Amira? Sorry.
okay, yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah. So all of you know Pooja Dhingra. She is the owner, the founder of Le 15 Patisserie. She is the Macaron Queen of India. And today she is here to talk to us about her journey, her experiences in the baking world. So I have a few questions for you, Pooja. So we're just going to like quickly go through them. And yeah. So how are you, by the way? How is everything in Bombay?
I'm good. I mean, obviously, last year has been quite challenging for the restaurant business.
Yes.
Everybody feels the challenges. But we've kind of made it through the first wave and the second wave, and I hope there is no third wave. But yeah, every day, that's the thing. I remember when I started Low 15 almost 11 years ago, the first few months, I would come to work and I would be crying almost every day. I would just something would go off, a supplier wouldn't deliver something on time, something cake would fall, like it would just be, problems every day. I'm sure most of you, if you bake from home, you know what it's like.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, and someone gave me the advice then that, you go to work every day thinking like you're going to war and just expect the unexpected and remember that, everything's fine. So I look at it very differently now. So it just manages my expectations better. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm doing good to answer your
Okay.
question. Doing good,
Yeah.
taking it day as it comes,
That's
and
good.
working on the next books. Very excited.
Yeah, I saw your stories. Even I was very excited when I saw that.
Yes.
Really looking forward to it. So, my first question to you is the very obvious one. How did you enter the baking world? How did baking come to you?
So I think it's something that has been a passion since I was very little, and
Okay.
it wasn't something that I really took seriously or thought that it would be a career. It's just something that I did on the weekends with my mom. I started baking when I was 6, looking at my aunt make brownies, and just continued baking with everyone. I was obviously, that the most loved kid in school because I was taking cake for everyone.
Cake.
And chocolates, and my teachers, I would make them things and things like that. So yeah, I always, I always did it, but I never really. And also now, I think you guys look very young, but now imagine like when I was in school, like 15, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it wasn't very common to be a chef or a pastry chef. It wasn't very
That's
common
true.
to culinary school. So it was never like an obvious thing. It was like something that was like, oh, it's like going off the beaten path and doing something different. So I went into law school because I thought that was like, the path that I had to follow and what I had to do. And clearly that didn't last very long. And then then obviously I decided that hospitality and, the dream was to have a cafe. The dream
Okay.
was I
Okay.
was in a cafe, and I love people. So I love entertaining, so to serve and make this little dream. And so my parents were like, if you want to do this, then study it.
Okay.
And then that led me to Switzerland, and then that led me to Paris.
Wow. That's such a motivational thing. So how is it from jumping from law to culinary? Was it
Um,
hard?
no, it was actually the easiest thing I've ever done, because
Okay.
when you know that something is not right for you, you just kind of know it.
Okay.
I went to, like, I was in law school for 2 weeks. I probably went to class maybe 5 times.
Okay.
And, like I remember so clearly, like on my third day in college, like coming out of school, like seeing all the books and the class, and calling my best friend and saying, meet me for coffee. Like I can't, like I was feeling suffocated, like this wasn't for me. And it
Okay.
was like, I was very lucky to have parents that were very
Very supportive.
understanding
Yeah.
of this. So when I told them that I don't want to do law, then they're like, okay, that's fine, but you have to study something. So what
Okay.
education is important. So what are you going to do? So yeah, that was
The
how.
shift. Yeah. So when you came back from France, I mean from Paris, right? You were in Paris. And when you tried macaron for the very first time, and when you started your patisserie and started selling them, were you scared that whether the Indian clientele would like it, would approve of it? I mean, did you have that kind of a fear in you?
To be very honest, so when I came back, I came back in 2009, and the pastry scene in India was very different, right?
Yes.
We didn't have standalone pastry shops. You only, if you wanted to get a good cake, you had to go to a five-star hotel.
True.
Everyone served cakes in brown boxes, and I just
Yes.
couldn't understand it. I was like, why is it not more happier? Why is it so like different?
Yeah.
And for me, it was mostly about understanding, because it's great, like you have this French education and all of that, but you have to understand that ingredients and climate makes such a difference when you're making anything, right? So there at room temperatures, like 60,
Very different.
70
Yeah.
room temperature chocolate is liquid. So just understanding how your ingredients work, the moisture content in butter, how so to make the macarons itself was a process. Like it took me like a few months in your home oven to keep practicing, checking, everything that
Yeah.
could go wrong. And then finally it was like, when I got the recipe right, I was like, so there was never a doubt whether people would like it or not, because I knew
Okay.
when people would like it. My only thing was that, why is it not being done before? So that was
Okay.
the question I would keep asking myself, like, why is everyone? It almost felt at that time, if you would go to like any restaurant or cafe in Bombay, at least, that there was the same pastry chef everywhere, because you had the same five desserts, right? You had like
And the basic ones.
yeah. So it was almost as if, why is nobody doing anything different? Cut to now 11 years later, and it's that,
Yeah, there's so much now.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's nice. Okay. So, what are your tips for a baker to run their businesses? Because everyone's like a young baker.
Okay,
So,
so
what?
I just want to get to know everybody a little bit better. Use the chat box. Tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
you.
you can put it on the chat box. I think if I
Um,
mute it, it's just
yeah.
going to.
Just put it in the chat box. I'll read. Tell me where you guys, which city are you from? How long have you been working? I'd love to get to know you guys better. But for me, I feel like, some of the most important things that I wish I had done differently, or I wish someone had told me about, was definitely, the financial aspects of it, and looking into the finance part of it, right? Because when you do something that you're so passionate about and you love so
True.
much, it almost feels like, oh, but money, I don't want to look into it, and somebody else does it. And so I think for me, and I had to learn lessons the hard way, when I had like an accountant who stole a lot of money from me, or someone
Okay.
forged my signature on bank loans. Like, I'm still fighting this case in the police and court and all of that. So I think that for me, I feel that if you're young and you're starting a business, look at it like a business. Don't it's if you want to just make cakes for passion from home, that's great. But if you are doing this as a business, then figure out what your revenue model and your revenue stream is. Get help if
Okay.
you're like me and you're not very good with math and numbers. Get help. There are people out there who do this professionally for a living, or if you have a family member who does it. So that would be the first thing. And then there's honestly, right now with the internet, you can pretty much learn anything and everything, right?
That's true. Yeah.
I'm not talking about like making of the cake and that yes, obviously I'm guessing everybody makes great stuff here. But how do you make it more profitable? What are things that you can do, from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective? I feel like take a more like holistic approach.
Okay.
Why do people come to you? What is it so different about the things that you make? What is the story that your products have? Like,
Have.
do something because everybody else is doing. The one thing I told myself when I came back to India is that I didn't want anything on my menu that was on any other menu, and
Yeah.
that's why I started working in a direction. And now, I think it's time for me to relook at my menu again and be like, let's do something.
Yeah, you need to add your own personal touch, to be honest, like
Exactly.
your thing into whatever you're baking.
Exactly. Okay, so we have people from everywhere. We have
Yeah,
people
from everywhere, from Delhi, from Bangalore.
from you want to start a bakery, you need more practice. Amira, that's a great, I mean, you should. I mean, I would also advise everybody to work in a professional kitchen for a bit. It really gives you, I think for me, studying patisserie and just studying Paris and working there, more than the recipes, because recipes, I mean, you can get anywhere and everywhere, right? That's not
Yes,
about that.
true.
It's actually the discipline of working in a professional kitchen. So you know exactly how things work, how you should order your things, how even the cleanliness of things, the making of several things, like it's a sort of
A
journey
process.
and a process.
Yeah.
So even if you do like even if you guys get a little bit of experience working in a professional kitchen, even if it's a weekend, if it's a week, we open our doors for people in Bombay. If you want to do an internship with us, we open doors for internships as well. So I just think that it's nice for you to look at how the system, the industry works,
Okay.
when you're setting standards for yourself when you're working at home, right? Because otherwise, you don't have that experience to tell you what is how things should work and how it is. So that would kind of be my advice.
Okay. So last year has been very hard. You were talking about it during our She the People panel talk also. So how do you think you have evolved in the lockdown? And you've started shipping also now, so many products, there's hot chocolate, everything. So how has that been for you?
I think for me, 2020 was, one of those big sort of milestones in my life where, kind of things happen to you, which is you're like post that you're never the same again. I think for me,
Yeah.
2020 was that because while I had like all these ambitions and everything, in March of last year, there actually came a point where I could have lost everything, right? And it was just because of the way like there was so much uncertainty. You didn't know what was happening. We had two big cafes.
Yes.
Suddenly the people were not allowed to go in to eat, and you didn't know when you could open again. I had a team of 100 people, and I had to make some really tough decisions, right? Like I think it really put my leadership skills to test. And so we shut down the cafes. I had to shrink my team from 100 to 30.
Oh, okay.
And all these people are like people that I've worked closely with. I've hired them myself, so it wasn't easy at all. It was very challenging. But I think that what last year has done for me is given me more confidence in myself and made me sort of realize that I can rely on myself for most things. Like
Okay.
everything that followed after. We actually ended the year more profitable than we've been in 11 years. So you know,
Touch wood.
it was kind of like a hard journey getting there and making really tough decisions. But making those tough decisions really early on helped. Also, just looking at the business and looking at what was available and just pivoting and realizing that okay, we have people from all across India who love our products. How do we, it went back to that mission statement of why, right? I think it's very important to ask yourself, why are you doing what you do? And for me in March, that was going back to the why. And for me, it was very simple that it's about getting joy to people, right? And making them feel better
Yes.
for a moment. And when that happens, for me, it was like, okay, I don't necessarily need an entire big cafe to do that. I could make you feel happy even if you have a box of hot chocolate or a box of Dickies in your home.
Yes,
So
true.
you're still staying true to your mission. You're still staying true to your vision and translating that. So it was also about like a lot of soul searching, going inside, what do you want to do? How do I see my life? What do I want to do with it? I could have, at last at one point been like, this is also an opportunity for me to say, okay, I've worked on this for 10 years and now the world is almost ending and
Yeah.
I could have just shut everything and just done something completely new. And those were all real options. They were like, I have, for the first time, I had like a to-do list, right? Which all like a pros and cons list. Like I don't normally make these pros and cons lists. I see them in movies, but for once I was like, I'm gonna make one. And I actually have it in my journal with pros of keeping Love 15 alive and then, cons of like of closing everything down. So it was at that stage. And those are not easy things to do, right? Like I mean, it's challenging when you build something with your whole heart for 10 years. So yeah, I think that the fact that we're still here and that we've only grown over the last year is it kind of makes me not in a like not in a show offy way, but it just gives me sort of courage that if you really believe in something and you want to and you believe in your purpose, like you'll manage to make it happen even though things are really hard.
Okay, but I personally feel that in 2020 people ate more cakes because that
Yes.
was no, because I think it made them feel better because we were all sitting at home and everybody was just ordering cakes, and thanks to delivery partners we were able to,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
thanks to them.
That's what last month actually for us. I just saw like an increase in sales, and I was like, wow, the second wave has hit, and everyone is sitting at home and eating cake. Great.
Good for us. There was a question on how did you start Le 15?
So when I came back, I knew that I wanted to, start a French style pastry shop because that was something that I hadn't seen in Mumbai before and in India before. And so Le 15 stands for the 15th arrondissement in Paris. It's like the area where I lived. It really was my home away from home for a year. And so I wanted to come back and give that same sort of feeling of being in Paris because I loved it so much. So I knew that real estate in Bombay is very expensive and I won't be able to do like a big pastry shop. So I knew that I wanted to find a central kitchen and then open like small
Small.
shops that would retail from there. So that was the original plan anyway, and that's exactly what I did. So in about March of 2010 is when I moved into a really small, like 500 square foot central kitchen in Mumbai. My parents sort of helped me set up that kitchen, like financially, and then after that, I've been on my own since. And I just, saw. I think there's opportunities everywhere if you just keep your eyes open. And for me, when I came back, everybody started asking me, oh, what did you learn in Paris, right? Oh, I want to learn this and I want to learn that. And I was like, okay, there's such a high demand for lessons. So at 23, 24, I started teaching, right? And I was like, who's going to take a 23-year-old seriously?
Yeah.
But my classes would be full and I'd have people flying in from all over the country to come for these classes. And I said, this is a great opportunity. And in fact, I think the first 6, 8 months of business, the classes made me more money than the actual bakery.
Okay.
So that's how I started, and slowly, it's no journey is ever like this, right? Like it's everyone looks at it from the outside, and
Yes.
it's big success story, and they're like, this is amazing. But guys, like everything takes
A
11
lot
years.
of time.
11 years is a long time, no?
Patience.
I mean, I'm even afraid to ask you guys how old you are because my mom would tell me you were like 6 or 7 years old, and that is a little bit scary. But yeah, so it's I think it's taking it, like have a long term vision and work towards it slowly. Don't expect. I know like the internet and social media makes it seem like everything happens for everyone so fast and overnight and everything. Yeah, so I was, you guys were 8 or 9 years old when I started Love 15. But,
15. There's 15 also.
oh, you were 4 years old, Shweta. Oh no, Shweta, you were 4 years old when I started. So that it takes time. So I think that to really understand if this is what you want to do, um, give it a good amount of time. Don't expect everything happen overnight and every success. And it's a lot of hard work, right? Like for the first 3 years of Love 15, I worked about 16 hours a day every single day. I didn't take any time off. And I'm not encouraging this way of working, right? I'm just saying
Yeah.
that when you're starting something, it just happens that you don't have the finances to hire so many people. So you end up doing a lot of it yourself. And then it just happens that you end up working so much. So it does take a lot of time and effort. And, it just, if maybe if today, if you ask me if I would do things differently, probably would. But then maybe I wouldn't be here and be doing what I'm doing. So I never know. It's like a trick question in my head. Okay, wow, someone is 14.
Yeah. Yeah. And then someone was 10 also. So anyway, let's not go there. All right.
Yeah, tell
So
me.
you told me that you started everything on your own, right? So was it hard to delegate work? Because I personally find it very difficult to, tell someone else to do something for me. Like I do everything on my own. So was it hard for you to, let
Yeah,
people do
I
your
mean,
work?
it was hard and it still is hard, but I think that there is um, it's something that you should learn how to do very early on, because if you try to control every little part of what you're doing, you'll be stuck in the same place and you'll never be able to grow, right? So
Yes.
there are certain things. For me, it was very important to learn how processes work, right? Like I think when you're working. At least when I started, in my head, I had very clear idea of how things worked and how they didn't. And obviously, you don't know enough. And if I
Yes.
go back and tell my younger self, it would be like, don't have such fixed ideas on things. Like, if you think something works a certain way, speak to experts, speak to people who know better, because there are people who do this, who do this much better than you, and they know how things work, at least in terms of setting processes and things, right? Like quality and consistency, like how do you make
Yes.
sure you get the same kind of buttercream every single time? How do you source your chocolate? How do you your cake boxes, if you're getting made, how do they look the same every single time? Like so many little things, right? And I realized that you can just set a lot of like processes for these things so that they become easier, which
Okay.
I would do differently. And delegation, I think that it's super important for you to just, you have to have that faith that someone firstly work with people that you trust, and then have these certain rules and regulations in place that makes it sure, so that at least for a certain level that that people will follow it. But I know the joy in doing something yourself is different, but
Yeah,
then you ask yourself, how much can you do by yourself, right? You're one single person, and to
that's
do,
true.
if you have to do everything yourself, you're not going to grow. So, what would you rather spend your time in? Would you rather spend your time doing the same thing every single day, or would you rather spend your time in learning something new and
New.
experimenting and coming up with how to make your business better, how to market it better, and letting somebody else do it? Because if you had to just sit and make the same thing over and over again, you could have just done that in a professional kitchen, right? Like, why would you
Yeah,
do it
true.
yourself? So,
That's
those are
true.
things you should ask yourself.
Okay. All right. So from the time you started, like 11 years back, and to now, you know that the baking community has been growing. Okay. Like, what is your take on that? That the number of bakers are increasing day by day.
I think there's always been a lot of people baking. Like they were just like, even for my mom or my mom's friends, they would make like chocolate at home and chocolate mousse. And I grew up like helping my mom bake at home, and she had a little home baking business. I think that the fact that there are so many people that love baking is only better for the industry, because
Okay.
firstly, it will give you the option of sourcing better ingredients, because they will be available now. Like right
Yes,
now, you
true.
can buy almost everything and anything in India, right? Like when I started 11 years ago, to even find good quality chocolate or butter or anything was so challenging. Like right now, you guys have the power of being together and saying like, okay, we need to get the best of something, we can get it, and everyone can take a little bit, and then that's the power of the community. So I think you'll just get a lot better ingredients. I think it'll also set the sort of market standard, right, in a way where that uh, it kind of equalizes, there's no monopoly and everyone is doing good. So I think it just helps the business become better. And people always ask me, and I said, just look at our population, right? Like there is, and as Indians we love celebrating and we love
Yes, of course.
so many occasions. Within my family of four, right, we have four birthdays, we have two anniversaries, we have, or celebrating something or the other. So I don't think there's ever going to be a time where there's just going to be a saturation, or there's going to be like, because even ask yourselves as consumers, right? As much as I love a brand or a cake shop, I always try experimenting. Like, I mean, I own Love,
Exam.
but I love eating cake from everywhere else, right? Like I
Yeah.
always do. So I think it's only good. I think it's great, and it makes me really happy to see. When I went to school, I was the only Indian girl in college, and it made me
Okay.
kind of, it made me feel like, why aren't more people doing this? And when I went back 2 years ago, almost half that class was full of Indian girls.
Indian. Wow.
It makes me really happy, and makes me happy to see so many people following their passion and the joy
That's
that.
true.
So yeah, I think it's only good.
Yeah. All right. But many bakers are still scared of failure. Like, they're scared of failing. So what do you want to tell them
What
about
is
the fail?
failing to you? What would you consider as failing?
Failure in the sense business doesn't run, they don't get orders on a daily basis, because that is one thing that, I get these questions saying that they're not getting orders on a daily basis. What do we do? We are using up our savings, we don't have it. So that kind of a failure. So what will you tell them?
So I feel like there's a couple of ways of looking at this, right? Like one is just seasonality. So if it's low season and you're not obviously getting as many orders as the higher season, it's normal, and that's the way most businesses go.
Okay.
Failing in terms of not getting a recipe right or not, that's failure. I feel like just moves you towards success. You can either look at it as a learning curve, or you can look at it as something that you'll never be able to pass. um, I think fear is normal. I think everyone is afraid at any given point of time, right? And the main thing, so being afraid is one thing, but the main thing is to
Hello.
to remove yourself from your personal self from your professional self, right? And these are two different things. So your professional failures cannot reflect on you personally. And I think that is a very important thing to for everyone to kind of understand, and give your professional self a certain timeline, a certain limit. For 3 years I will do this, and if all of this goes wrong after 3 years, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, right? And that's something that all entrepreneurs will tell you. You fail fast, you learn from it, you either fix it, or then after a certain point you tell yourself, okay, maybe this is not the best thing for me and I should find out what the best thing for me is. And
Okay.
that is completely okay. So I think for me as well, right, like if I've tried to do something and I want to do, like maybe I want to teach something specific, or I want to do something else, and if it doesn't work, I move fast and I say, okay, I tried this product, I tried this, it's not working. I've set the limit of how much I should try. And after that, if it doesn't work and you've really given it your all, like why would you keep doing it over and over again? So I think it's deciding how much you're willing to fail.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, because most of them had this question, because I had put up a thing on what do you want to ask Pooja, and they were all asking like how to come over failure, and that was a question that was repeatedly asked. So I thought, why not ask you straight away? All right. So now I'm going to move on to our last question. So all of us bake for joy, like that's like our main thing. So what is how does baking bring you joy? So that's what I want to know. Like, did
So
it help you overcome?
yeah. So I'll tell you a few things, right? So when I first started baking when I was very young, I was always in awe of how something so simple could turn into something so magical or delicious, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just eating butter sugar flags, and it always felt like some sort of magic. And then as I grew older, for me, in the start of Low 15 or when I'm trying new recipes, the day-to-day production is very different from this.
Okay.
Right? The day-to-day production is busy, it's hectic, it's chaotic, it's different. But when I'm in the Macaron kitchen, for example, or when I'm working on new recipes for my book, etc., it's almost a spiritual experience of sorts, or it's almost like a therapeutic experience where
Yeah,
for
that's
that
true.
moment, you're like, what is meditation, right? Like, or what is something where that has your whole focus is that you are for that moment present there. And I think for me, it makes me feel like I'm in the present moment and I'm not anywhere else for that time. And I think that that's the whole purpose of living. Like everyone tries to do that. You're just all
Yeah.
trying to now. You read all these books about people telling you how the main thing is don't dwell in the past, don't
Past.
future, and be in the present. And that never happens for me, except for two things: when I'm in a dance class, or when I'm in the Macaron kitchen, and now when I watch K dramas,
Yeah.
because I'm so focused on reading the subtitles that I just stay in the present moment. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, that was my last question for you. Do you guys have any questions, Pooja? You can ask.
I think
One.
Monica is asking something. Hi, Monica. Becoming a baking content creator. I think it's a great option, to be very honest right now, Monica. I think that a lot of people are doing really good baking content, and it's something that's food as content is great because it's so like, it makes you feel
Yeah.
excited. It's right there. So I honestly think that, and I feel like eventually everyone is going to become like a media or content creator because that's the way you will sell your work, like in a way
Yeah.
it just goes hand in hand. So if you're creating content, you have something to sell with it, great. If you're just creating content, then that works as well.
Yeah, I think because Instagram is like a visual thing, all of us have to post good pictures so that our things are sold. So yeah, I think
Right.
makes sense. All of us are content creators in that way.
There's someone who's 14 years old.
Wow.
Sakshi. Sakshi's 14 and she started baking 2 or 3 years back. Wow, Sakshi. How should I grow in baking and I have a page? So I think Sakshi, that's it's firstly it's amazing and it's really commendable that you're doing this at 14 and that you have these
Mhm.
skills to do it. I feel like it's also important to first understand what your see right now there is a dearth of like how much knowledge of baking there is on the internet in general, right? So I think what you have to identify is what sets you apart. What is it that is so specific to you? And this is not something that you can look at someone else and say, oh, this person is doing this, so I should do that. Sit with yourself, go for a walk, ask yourself these questions, understand what do you really like, what brings you the most joy, what do you think will that you add value in other people's lives with, right? And then build your content plan and build your plan for your page according to answering that what is it that you are solving. So I think why are people coming to you? I think like a few years ago, I was sitting with a friend of mine who's a comedian, a very big comedian in India, and the one thing he told me, he's like, write down 10 things. Like, what are the 10 things that people are coming to you for? And
Okay.
then and actually my eggless baking, my book, Can't Believe It's Eggless, came out because of this exercise. So I just realized that a lot of people were asking me for eggless recipes, and I was like, okay, why don't I do a book around it? So I think it's very important to understand what is your niche, what do you add value, and where do you come, where do it could be like, oh, people just come to you because you make desserts in jars and that's the only thing that you do, and you stick to that, right? So it's really understanding yourself first before you come up with your page and how that should look. That all is the easy part once you ask the really difficult questions. Okay. Tip for pricing. I saw a few people asking. I actually on my YouTube channel, guys, I spoke to someone, and we've done this whole thing on pricing. Please go have a look on it, have a look and see how it's done because it's quite it's quite a revelation in its own way. So have a look at it. Should
Okay.
I, should I just read the questions? How would you like me to do this, Sarah?
No, I think I'll read some questions for you. Uh, How and where to learn the science behind eggless baking to curate our own recipes? Because everyone wants eggless baking. So, how?
I think it's, for you to understand how eggless baking works, you have to first understand how baking with eggs works and really understand the knowledge and science behind it. That's how I did it. And then slowly start like taking that out and replacing things with it, because there's no one single substitute for every recipe, right? So I think start there. There's a lot of information on the internet about the role of eggs in baking and what happens when you take it out. So start studying that and then start using that knowledge in your recipes and your day to day.
Okay. What is the one baking tip or rule that you swear by?
Weigh your ingredients.
Yeah, weighing scale. Yeah, true, true. That's very true.
I've realized I just started living alone very recently, and I always thought that I don't cook because I don't have the opportunity to cook, and now I have to cook for myself every day, and I absolutely detest it. I'm making my home kitchen into this crazy like baking lab sort of thing, where I'm
That's
like,
good.
I will not cook anything, but I will only bake, and weighing scale is very important.
I saw your bits and bits on your stories. Your home is looking very pretty.
Thank you.
Uh, Compound chocolate or couverture chocolate? What do you think is better?
That's a very good question as well, and I feel that you have to understand essentially what chocolate is and what the purpose of it is in your recipe. And compound chocolate is basically cocoa mass, and it has vegetable fat or some sort of fat instead of cocoa butter. So that's the difference in them. You'll never find me saying this is better, that is best, don't do this, don't do that. I feel like as a pastry chef, I like to take and see what is the star ingredient in my recipe and what I need to work with. So yeah, I mean it's up to you to decide. Are you going to temper this chocolate? Where are you using it? Who's eating it? What is it going in? Ask yourself those questions and see it from a lens of a recipe and the final product, instead of just having these very firm beliefs that this is rubbish and this
Better.
is the best and this is not
That's
good.
true.
You know, just,
Agreed.
just like make those decisions for yourself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I think people hear a lot of, this is better, that is better. So it's very confusing, especially when you're new in the industry and you're like, what are we supposed to do? You're clueless. So it's better to like understand.
Yeah.
True. Uh, Tips. There are many questions coming. Uh, are there any eggless courses available in Paris? I don't think so, right? No.
It's very challenging. How do you set your routine? Because we know it's hectic and horrible. How do you manage your work in the kitchen and come up with amazing new ideas? Ria, yes. Like I said, Ria, it's taken a lot of time to kind of understand and prioritize where my time should go to. Currently, we're back at having 65 employees at Low 15, and our kitchen is really massive and big. And I probably would have loved to show you guys around. But I just feel that it's what I do is I set, I have monthly goals and I have weekly goals, and then I break them down, into smaller, what can I do in the day. So I don't, as much as I'd love to, I don't bake as much, and I'm not in the kitchen as much every day. I'm more in the studio where I work on new recipes. I look at, I end up doing half my day goes in like a lot of like admin work and HR work and all those things. So I'm trying to now find people that I can hire and delegate that to, so I can go back to doing stuff that I really enjoy. But it's I put my time where it really needs me, and right now growth is important. So
Yes,
my
true.
focus is growing the business.
So, yeah. There are a lot of questions coming. Wait, what is that question? How much has your life and experience in Paris helped you set up La 15 in India?
That's a very good question. I think the fact that I named it Love 15 itself. Uh, I love being in Paris. I mean, it was, at least for me, it was an experience like none other. I was 21. I was living with my best friends who I met in Switzerland. So, that were French. So it was a very cocooned experience, right? I didn't face challenges with language because my friends spoke it, and I was very safe in that manner. So for me, it was also just like exploring a new culture, a new language, being away from Bombay. It kind of helped me rediscover. And like when you grow up in a certain uh, school and college, just people like to put you in boxes, and it was very like this is Pooja. And for me, being in Paris kind of helped me really understand who I really was. So I think that helped me, and then obviously the impact of like all the different food I ate there, and just seeing the French attention to detail, the attention to quality of ingredients, how things are so it's technique oriented, but flavors are so simple. I think for me, I really loved that, and it changed everything. So yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just take this last question and then we'll end the session. So, how do we keep ourselves mentally stable when everything is falling apart?
That's a very good question. um, I think that it's super important, firstly, to have a few people in your life that you can trust and you can reach out to when things get really hard. And this can be your family, it can be your friends. I'm just telling you what I did last year when I felt like my world was falling apart. So I spoke to a lot of, I have 4 5 friends that I'm truly like I can say anything to. So I had that sort of system that helped me cope. I also think that I live by this principle of everything passes, like it's everything is transient in a way, right? So a lot of success, a lot of failure, whatever happens in life, nothing is ever at the same level.
Yeah.
So today I'm really happy, tomorrow I'll be sad. You can never be consistently sad or consistently happy. So realizing that when you are in a very tough spot, realizing that it's going to pass is very important.
Okay.
So have that realization that this is temporary, everything is temporary, and it's going to pass. So once you have that, it just makes it easier. And then I mean, find something that you really like to do, right? It could be dance, it could be singing, it could be something that's completely different from baking and being in the kitchen to really give you that energy that you bring back here. So for me, that's dance, or it's learning how to play the guitar, or it's watching K-dramas again. So it's all of those things, and then I bring that back in. I feel like I'm sounding like Sadhguru here right now.
No, I think we all need that motivation.
Point of that, but I'm just telling you that it was really hard for me last year, and then these things helped me kind of get back on track.
Okay. So thank you so much, Pooja, for coming today and for talking to all of us. It really means a lot to me because I started baking because of you. You are like my biggest inspiration. So thank you so much.
Can you have a picture? Can I get people to put the camera?
Let me just put it in the gallery view, or do you want it like this? How do you want it?
Gallery view, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone's on gallery. I'll have to like change this thing. There are 4 pages.
How do we fit everybody in?
I have no idea. I think gallery view is the only way.
I can only get 20. Okay. I'll do a video. Okay, everybody start waving now.
Hi. I'll just keep moving it. So, yeah, many of them are not there.
Okay, for everybody. Thank you so much, guys. I wish you all the best with your baking, and I, keep spreading joy and keep spreading happiness, and just know that there's enough room for everybody. So
thank you so much for coming and talking to all of us.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, thank you guys for joining in. Pooja is gone. Thank you so much for coming in today. See you guys on Instagram. Back on Instagram. Bye, guys. See you.